April 2nd, 2025. This committee meeting is being convened in person and by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, City of Vancouver electronic meetings. And as such, committee members and the public may participate in person or by electronic means. Video of committee members speaking, presentations, and vote results will be projected on the live stream when available. In case of an emergency, if we need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors and to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the 4 exits in the chamber, and please use the stairs, not the elevator. If you require accessibility assistance, please remain at your location and wait for a security staff member to guide you to a safe location. I would also like to highlight that there is a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside of the council chamber. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. I also would like to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver's team members who work hard every day to make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. So clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Councillor Meisner in the chair, Mayor Sim, Councillor Kirby-Young, Councillor Dominato is on a leave of absence for civic business all day. Councillor Bly is on a leave of absence for civic business all day. Councillor Fry is on a leave of absence for civic business all day. Councillor Montague.
Present.
Councillor Klassen. Councillor Joe. You have quorum, Chair Meisner.
Thank you very much. So our plan for the day, any comments on agenda items can be sent to the committee using the web form on the city's website, and the link to that form will be posted on X at Van City Clerk. I would like to note the City of Vancouver's longstanding commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including the utmost respect for all genders. I remind the committee that when addressing speakers and the city's team members, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. So today we have 1 administrative item, 1 presentation, 3 reports, and 1 council member's motion. The plan for today, should we need to, is to break at noon for lunch, return at 1 p.m., and continue to deal with the remainder of the agenda. If needed, the committee will recess at 5 p.m. for a dinner break and reconvene at 6 to complete the agenda. And if we don't complete all the items on the agenda today, the clerk will inform us of the most convenient reconvene date and time later today. And just a note to council, we do have bare quorum today, so if you need a bio break, let me know because we can call it recess, but we'll need to stay in our seats. So now matters adopted on consent. The committee will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have reports 1 through 3 on the consent agenda for the committee's consideration, and the committee may adopt those recommendations for reports 1 through 3 on consent. But I see Councillor Kirby-Young on the queue to hold one of the reports.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'd like to hold report 1, change order to consulting services agreement for the Healthy Waters Plan.
Great. Thank you. Okay, not seeing anyone else on the queue to hold any reports. So before we consider the consent agenda, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Okay, not seeing any. So we have reports 2 and 3 on the consent agenda. Would someone like to move adoption of the recommendations before the committee? Okay, so moved by Councillor Klassen and seconded by Councillor Kirby-Young. All those in favor say yay. Any opposed say nay. Okay. So that passes unanimously. So the following have been approved on consent. Report 2, approval of change orders to professional services agreement, number PS 2022-0048-ENG-RFP, consultant for trenchless sewer design and contract administration. And report 3, contract award for construction services for upgrading the Thornton pump station. Okay, so we have 1 presentation today entitled Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services Wildfire Risk Report. And our fire chief, Karen Fry, is here to present. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you today, and also like to recognize I'm speaking on the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And thank them for caring for these lands, and it's really a good opportune time to talk about our land. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to thank our staff for advancing the slides when I asked them to, because I am not a techie. I am a fire chief. And I'd like to introduce the team that I brought here with me. I have Deputy Chiefs Connolly, Weeks, and Mears, and Assistant Chief Mulcahy, and Director Daniel Stevens from VEMA. So they're the experts with me here today that will be available if you have any questions. Okay. So, next slide, please. So this is just a little bit about what we're going to talk about. You know, recent high-profile urban interface fires have created a heightened awareness that even major urban centers can be threatened by wildfire. Los Angeles, Lahaina, Jasper, Fort McMurray, and West Kelowna are all recent examples of interface fires that have significantly impacted communities, cities, and even major urban centers. Next slide, please. So this presentation is going to provide a high-level appraisal of our wildfire risk as we see it in the City of Vancouver. We're going to talk about our response capabilities, some of our risk mitigation strategies. We're going to look at some of our jurisdictional challenges. We're going to talk a little bit about the big fire we had on West 41st, and we're going to look at some areas of opportunity. Next slide, thank you. So we talk about climate change. We all saw what happened in Los Angeles this January. A firestorm wreaking devastation to 16,000 structures, estimations of upwards of $250 billion in damages and economic loss. A fast-moving, wind-driven inferno. Hurricane-force winds, 24 dead, thousands of homes. I know that's in California, but could it happen in Vancouver? So it was a significant wildfire season as well in the province. We have satellite imagery that the wildfire indices and analysis from our specialists showed good levels of moisture in BC in the soil and relatively low risk when compared to other areas of the province. Next slide, please. Let me see where I'm at here. So I want to talk a little bit about some of our risks in Vancouver. So unlike many other municipalities in BC, Vancouver is an urban island and does not face the threat of wildfires encroaching from outside other municipal boundaries. We have a service area of 129 square kilometers. And think about Stanley Park, which marks about 8.6 kilometers and roughly 7.5% of our area. Again, we provide fire protection to UBC and UEL through contract. And Pacific Spirit Park itself, which is probably one of my biggest concerns, makes up about 50% of those lands. As you can see from the map, UBC is surrounded by parkland. We also have Everett Crowley Park, which is just under half a square kilometer. I think I'd really like to point out that Stanley Park has over 70 fire hydrants within it. Pacific Spirit Park has hydrants on the road and close proximity in roads, to the roads and to the power lines. There we go. So the threat to Vancouver really comes from these fires itself for a wildfire interface or interface fire. Next slide, please. So when we talk about wildfire risk, it's really assessed by a combination of probability and consequence. The wildfire modeling shows that if there was a delay in fire detection or response, somewhere like in Stanley Park, under extreme fire conditions, a wind-driven fire has the potential to impact 25% of the park within 12 hours. And this is from a wildfire growth model that we used. So that's not quite what we saw in California, where we saw within 12 hours, the majority of a whole area of the city be devastated. Next slide, please. So what makes Vancouver so different? I'd like to say 139 years of experience. Our fire department itself, back in 1911, by a group of London businessmen, was rated the third best fire department in the world, behind London and Leipzig. Really on our advances in technology and firefighting. So we continue to do that today. We have effective monitoring and diligent fire response for our urban forests. We know that our park users and our communities light up the system and the 911 system when they see smoke or fire in our city. While many of our park users can be a source of ignition for a fire, we do have early detection from people that are working in it. During the hot summer months, we have park rangers, and we also have fire prevention staff that patrol the areas. Thanks to council, we have a fully funded growth plan. We have great resources currently, and we have quick response time for our first unit on scene. On average, it takes us 6 minutes to get a first apparatus on scene to a structure fire within our city. And so that stops the spread of fire. You know, there's reports coming LA, it was upwards of 12 minutes to get the first unit on scene, and then they were fought with things like lack of water supply, lack of multiple resources. One of the things I think we do in Vancouver is we get to that first fire very quickly and we start action. Next slide, please. So when we talk about a little bit about our response capabilities. So we have 20 fire halls, 152, we have 150 personnel on duty 24/7. We have a DOC that we staff up quickly, and we have 6 disaster staging areas. We have 31 apparatus in service, all with fire pumps. I will point out that one of the results that we heard in Los Angeles was that there were 100 apparatus out of service requiring maintenance. We run our apparatus in Vancouver a lot. Our apparatus, our fire apparatus and our fire trucks have a lot of wear and tear on them. We do have 3 fireboats. We have 3 wildland brush trucks that we recently got, I believe, about 2 years ago now. We have some ATVs for in our parks that we use and can use. And many of you may have seen our hydro sub for drafting. We used that recently to fill Kit's Pool. So that can get water quickly to our shoreline if and when it needs. We have a great water supply in our city of Vancouver. We also have our dedicated fire protection system. You will see those located throughout our city. Those are the big blue hydrants. And that can pull water if something happens to our water supply directly from our ocean. That is a system that we do not see just about anywhere else in the world. It is unique to Vancouver. So one of the other things we heard in Los Angeles is that there were 1,000 firefighters that were not kept on duty. So 152 staff, if it occurred at shift change, if we have resources in order to put them in trucks, which we don't have an additional 30 apparatus, but we can staff up any other available resources that we have. And we do have neighboring mutual aid partners within our boundaries. So Burnaby, Richmond have all been great partners to us as well. One of the other things, much like in Los Angeles, they have Los Angeles County Fire. We have BC Wildfire. BC Wildfire has 26 initial attack crews and 22 people or 5 unit crews that are based in the Coastal Fire Center. as well as an aviation resources, air tankers, water skimmers, and helicopters that can assist if needed. Vancouver is an established process to request this assistance, and it can get here quickly. Metro Vancouver Parks, which is responsible for Pacific Spirit, has a 6-person initial attack crew for the University Endowment lands, as well as another 6-person crew on the North Shore, and then 10 to 20 park staff that can assist in wildfire response as well. Next slide, please. So one of the greatest things about Vancouver is we have fire halls strategically located around our city. And very infrequently do we not have an apparatus able to respond from a specific area. And all of our halls will have pumping capability within them. Our wildland units, we keep one out at UBC, Fire Hall 10, one in Fire Hall 7, which is downtown, that responds to Stanley Park, and one at Fire Hall 17, I guess I said 4, one at Fire Hall 17, which is our brand-new fire hall on Knight Street, which goes to Everett Crowley. Thanks to council as well, in 2024, we permanently staffed Wildland 7 out of Fire Hall 7 as a result of the growth plan. So that is always available to respond to fires. It is no longer a crossover rig. Next slide, thank you. So we can have all the equipment and all the people we want, but we have to continue with training. And we're a busy city, as we've always said, you know, our firefighters are some of the busiest firefighters in the country. So we've expanded our wildland training. We have 3 new, what we call acting training officers specializing in wildland firefighting. We have instructors. We have 96 of our staff are going to get the WSPP, WFF1, those are fancy terms, but I'm going to say it's firefighter level 1 training this month. And we also do seasonal interagency training with our Metro Vancouver partners. And surprisingly enough, and even sitting here in council today, we have many Vancouver Fire staff that were previously BC Wildfire Service staff. They actually provide great training, and it's great experience for a lot of our staff. So we have more than 400 of our staff, so approximately 50% of our staff are trained at a level 1 for wildland firefighting. It's different, right? The training is different to fight a wildfire than it is to fight a house fire. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are we doing? So we know there's this little bit of a risk. We have winds, we have heat domes, we have climate change. So our public safety, in the last couple of years, we've increased our public safety trainers to work with the Fire Smart program, which is a provincial program. We create fire bans, so there's no open fires permitted in our city of Vancouver. No smoking in parks. No barbecues on our beaches. And special events and permits are always for fireworks. Other prevention measurements includes during extreme heat events, we don't permit fireworks. We continually work through our public safety or social media to talk about messaging. So that's something that we'll continue to do this year, as well as doing events out in the community on ensuring that your home is fire smart safe. So removing extra debris around your house to protect your house from a brush fire spreading. We work a lot with our partners at parks. So we have bike patrols in Stanley Park with the rangers. Our PSU are always responding during the celebration of lights to monitor those events. And we're continually doing website improvements to learn and educate our community on Fire Smart initiatives. Strange enough, most people here wouldn't ever think about the importance of a construction fire safety plan. So while many people have to have fire safety plans once the building is occupied, during the building or demolition, there is also a fire safety plan that is required. And I will tell you that the West 41st fire would have been a whole different story if they didn't have a construction fire safety plan in place. And I'll talk a little bit more about that one. Next slide. Okay, so what are some of our challenges that we're seeing in the City of Vancouver? A little bit on the jurisdiction. Like I said, Stanley Park is within the City of Vancouver. We're in control of what's going on. Thank you for going on with the removal of the looper moth trees. That does reduce a lot of the fuel growth. But Pacific Spirit Park is managed by Metro Vancouver, so we need to continue to work with them on some of their fire reduction and seasonal firefighting capabilities. We are not responsible for fuel management in the fire department. We can't really write tickets to tell people to remove trees, so we're always grateful when VEMA is working on that as part of their risk hazard assessment and our parks. And the fuel management is done through the park board. Okay, next one. Thank you. That's fine. Okay. Little fire here. It's probably one of I'm sure the people sitting behind me in the audience here a big sigh of relief that this had the outcome that it did and didn't expand any worse. So 3477 West 41st. Now, this could have had the potential to be an extreme, even more of an extreme event. It was a dry late summer day, August at 6:37. Our resources were already tied up at another second alarm structure fire. And it was in a 6-story wood frame building without any sprinkler system currently in place. And it quickly escalated throughout the coming minutes and hours that even triggered a tower crane collapse. The fire plume cast embers, burning debris into the neighborhood. They create their own weather. So they create their own windstorm. And so I know many people were talking about seeing bits and pieces of construction material blocks and blocks away. From our understanding, it started 9 additional structure fires. And we even heard that up to a week later, or maybe even a little bit longer, we found a smoldering fire in Pacific Spirit Park that was related to debris from that fire itself. So we were depleted with our resources, and for the first time in over 30 years, we asked for mutual aid support from our partners in Richmond and Burnaby, and are grateful that they came over. We did DOC and EOC activation, so we're grateful to the city, the remainder of our city, and our partners at VEMA for opening that up. And then we changed our alarm levels. We had created a high demand action plan prior to this event, so we had already mitigated or come up with some solutions for after the heat dome to be able to send less resources to events within our city when our resources were depleted. So next slide, please. So our crew, I just cannot praise them enough for the work that they did at this event. Generally, chiefs, stand back and watch and observe and provide support and guidance. But I know I was on vacation and Chief Weeks had a hose line on a house trying to save an adjoining house. I didn't write him up for that. But it is just that all hands on deck approach. that things that make me the most proud of working in this city and with this department is that they all work together as a team, and when they need to work, it's all hands on deck. So they saved multiple homes from burning and stabilized the incident within several hours, unheard of. We worked collaboratively with VEMA to lessen the negative consequences to this incident. You know, they opened up their EOC and just helped us. You throw a crane collapse into the middle of it and everything that goes along with that, gas line ruptures. When things go bad, they go bad, and there was a lot of different things going on with this incident. We backfilled 2 apparatus. We don't have a lot of extra resources to backfill like I said before, we don't have a lot of extra resources or apparatus that are available to staff up through the call out. But our crews are best trained and equipped when responding in Vancouver. Further work needs to be done to improve our communications with other municipal fire departments, all on the same radio system. It's not something we had really practiced in 35 years, but they did remarkable work with all things that happen. So the next page, the next one, thanks. Did that one? Oh, sorry, next slide. I guess so. I'll work on it. If it's not on the slide I had, but well, I've got it. So what are we going to continue to work on? We're going to continue to work on our greater alarms, as we call it. Our training apparatus, we've asked to keep. It's kind of with finance right now, but as we get new apparatus into replacement apparatus, we're going to be working on trying to keep a few extra apparatus, so we'll have them in reserve, not for replacement themselves again, but just as additional. We're going to try to utilize our new training capacity to expand our wildland training for our staff. It's not something we would have thought that we would need in years past. In years past, we thought we would need wildland firefighting to be deployed in the province, not to fight wildfires within our city, but that has changed. And we're going to continue to work on public education and engagement with our citizens and our communities. A little bit of a call to action. People need to be responsible for ensuring that their home is as fire smart and fire safe as it can be, especially those that are living adjacent to urban forests. And we're going to continue to work with our partners at Vancouver City Communications, our public information, and our VEMA on the Alertable app to advise individuals when they need to share key messaging. We could always do that better. Next slide. So, here's the place. Here's the summary. We're doing good. Our overall, the risk of wildfire in the city of Vancouver is relatively low, except during periods of extreme drought, which we are seeing more of. An ignition during a period of high winds, high temperatures, and extreme drought conditions is the rare scenario that poses the greatest risk to the city of Vancouver. During the heat dome, we did have a wildfire at Wreck Beach. It started at Wreck Beach and went up the side of the hill there. But our quick response got to it immediately and put it out. Through VEMA, the wildland interface fires are now being added to our city's hazard risk and vulnerability assessment to ensure that we address it. And, you know, it's really an all agencies are responsible for protecting our parks, right? No smoking in parks, no fires in parks, no fires on beaches. And really about managing the fuel load. You have a great response from our team at Vancouver Fire and our crews. The Wildland 7 staffing was paramount for quick action into Stanley Park last year. And then our high demand action plan. So we quickly recognize when our resources are being tapped or strained, and make adjustments so we're not going to be tied up at calls where we can't respond to fires, the most important thing that we go to. And again, our training apparatus proposal on maintaining some of our apparatus is something that we're going to continue to advocate for. So we can build up a little bit of our fleet and have some in reserve if the event that we're going to need to staff back and build up that capacity. And I think that is it for me. If there are any questions, like I said, I have a great team here of individuals who would be glad to answer them.
That's great. Thank you, Chief. So committee members, you have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of team members, and I see almost everybody on the queue. Councillor Kirby-Young, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Chief Fry, for a comprehensive presentation. My first question is really around clarity, because you mentioned the need for additional reserve apparatus, but then there's also terminology that refers to 3 heavy apparatus and training apparatus. So I'm just looking for clarification if those are one and the same. How many do you need? You mentioned 3. And what is the cost of new apparatus?
Yeah, so I think our first step is to maintain the current apparatus that we are going to be, normally would be replaced in our system. So those ones we want to keep. The cost, maybe I can ask Chief Weeks to speak to that? Okay, I think he's got a little bit of background, and you'll.
Okay, and Chief Weeks, if you can just clarify when we're talking training apparatus, heavy apparatus, and reserve apparatus? One
Yeah, so-
interchangeable terminology, or no?
They're one and the same. So training apparatus is a form of a reserve apparatus, and it would go into a pool of apparatus we would globally call our reserve apparatus. This 3 we're asking for to keep from, we're trying to keep 3 of our end-of-life apparatus and move them to training, and we're calling them training apparatus, but they would become part of our cohort of reserve apparatus available to us to staff in a situation like what happened on August 6th. So we'll have two dedicated apparatus that sit as a greater alarm apparatus that we don't use for anything else. These additional 3 that we've asked for would be utilized in training, but they would also be available to be staffed for a greater alarm. So that's why that nomenclature is different. As far as cost goes, salvage cost, what we normally do at end-of-life apparatus is sell them on auction. So we estimate that we'll receive about $75,000 for 3 apparatus. So the city we'd have to bear that cost. We wouldn't be receiving that revenue. In addition, there would be about a $65,000 a year carrying cost to keep those apparatus maintained, to use. And in addition, we'd need some capital money to house those 3 apparatus at our training facility. But that's in that report in the summary.
Okay, and the report is available how and where? Where is the report that was referenced?
We have a summary tied to this document, and I'm not sure exactly where you can get that, the full report, but we can ensure that we get it for you. We haven't presented it to council yet.
That was sort of my question.
Thanks.
Okay, and I assume that'll be part of upcoming budgeting discussions?
Potentially, we may, we're going to be working with city finance to see if we can find the money within our existing budget. But we'll be coming back to council if need be in the upcoming budget scenarios. But if not, we'll be working internally with the city manager's office.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to switch gears just to another topic, and it's really around sort of Stanley Park, and you had mentioned the challenges with overlapping jurisdiction, and it was interesting to me. I was going to ask you about the Lupermoth to hear you supported that. We still hear differing feedback, sometimes from public, sometimes from Indigenous communities, but it's good to hear the position on that. My question is around, you referenced the park rangers, and with the contemplated transition away from having an elected park board, I'm wondering if you see an opportunity there for cross-training with park rangers, or if you're aware of other models in other cities in terms of them having training to provide not even necessarily regular duties or backup response, or any thoughts or contemplation around that?
Thank you for that. I haven't really put my mind to that yet, but at any time, more eyes in our parks is always better. I'm sure that we could provide training with our fire prevention staff to help identify fire risks within the parks. If that's what you're asking, are you thinking our firefighters?
I guess in terms of providing, supplementary response in the event of a significant incident, but
Yes.
it would be interesting to hear your thoughts at a future date, because there's also been discussion around the lack of power, as you mentioned, ticketing with respects to the distinction between a park ranger and a City of Vancouver bylaw officer, for example, and what they can ticket. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting opportunity to hear thoughts back on that.
Yeah, let us take that away and ponder that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Councillor Kirby Young. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate the comprehensive presentation. I want to piggyback a little bit off of what Councillor Kirby Young was talking about, and that's the reserve or like a reserve fleet or
Yeah.
to backfill. And I guess my additional question, excuse me, is, are we ever in a situation where our fire halls, because of maintenance issues, are without apparatus equipment? And if so, how often?
We have had situation where we are without ladder trucks, definitely within our city. I believe we might have 8, somewhere around 6? Yeah, 8 ladder trucks, and at times we don't have enough spares even to replace them. But due to, in my time here, we haven't had a situation where we don't have an apparatus in at least every hall available to respond due to maintenance, whether we'd always have an engine at this point in time. We haven't had to close down a hall.
We have had halls that should have a ladder that don't have a ladder?
Correct, at various times, yes.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, with regards to on the wildfire side of things, you mentioned assistance of other agencies and things like that. You talked a little bit about attack crews within our parks. If we have a situation where we have a fire that's growing too rapidly for these attack crews, how long? You said they respond quickly, but I'm wondering if you were.
I know your question.
Yeah. How
Justin?
long does it take for BC Wildfire to assist, or how would it be expected? How long it would take for them to, and how does that process work?
Excellent question. I think I want to point out first, before delving too deeply into your question, that we have kind of a layered response model. Vancouver Fire provides the primary fire response to these regions. So when we're talking about a request for assistance, it's after that first wave of fire action has taken place, and we're trying to escalate and get additional resources that we don't have. So to your question about the mechanism is outlined such that our assistant chief that would be on duty, our highest ranking operational staff, through ECOM 911 would make a request to the Coastal Fire Center. The request for the Coastal Fire Center, from the Coastal Fire Center, would be triaged according to BCERM's goals, which are aligned with our goals, which are just, protecting human life, property, those things. And they would dispatch resources according to those values that are at risk. Our city has the greatest values at risk in the province, and they would prioritize those extremely high. So the type of assistance that we would need would be air support, aviation resources, and those resources would be available within an hour at the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, with air tankers and skimmers being available at the Abbotsford Air Tanker Base, it's about a 15-minute window. But again, resources move around the province based on need. There's also the Comox
Sorry to
base.
interrupt. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but we've lost quorum.
Oh, sorry.
That's not your fault.
Yeah, we could
Just take a pause.
oh, there we go.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, just a reminder to councillors, we have bare quorum today, so if you could, just
Happy to hear the rest of,
stay in your seats.
if you had any additional, it's my last question, so.
No, I think that sums it up, that the resources that we'd need most would be within a half hour. So
And they would come, you said from Abbotsford, and do we have resources on the island through like Comox, the basic Comox and stuff?
that they use that as an air tanker base potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the initial attack crews and stuff would just be ground support, which is a resource that we already have.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So thanks, Chief, and all our amazing fire department. So really appreciate all your, support to the city residents. My question is really about the technology. I know in some other cities or country, they are using drones to put out the fares, especially for the like the average Crawley Park, where we have very limited vehicle access, and also the high-rise building is really helpful. Is that something that we were thinking about to explore?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. We're always looking at technology and ways to make our service better. Through our drone program, we've worked very closely with Vancouver Police and their drone program, and they've made them available to us when we need them. So yes, we would have access to those. I know that you'll hear a lot about technology in the wildfires across the province and satellites, and we also have a staff member that's continually monitoring our maps and our satellite imagery for hotspots within the city of Vancouver boundaries. But and in one of our new vehicles, we are looking at a tethered drone. But again, we're relying and resourcing with Vancouver Police on their drone system.
Okay, so I'm not talking about those monitor drones. I'm talking about some other country, they are using the drones to
Oh.
put out the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, those big drones, is that someone we would like to explore?
I'm sure we would be very interested in looking at those. Even I've seen them in high rises and using that technology. It's not something that we have investigated even fully yet at this point in time, but it is definitely something Vancouver would look for.
Yeah, I heard there's some federal regulations about this air drones because that's the barriers, preventing us to
Yeah.
purchase that. I'm not sure what is the details, but I would strongly encourage we explore. And if there's some new technology we can fund, I'd be
Thank you.
discuss that at
Thank you.
council. Okay, other things also about technology. Again, I heard from other municipalities, they are using AI to detect those potential fire risks. So they can tell the fire department in advance so to prevent the big fire happen. Is that something we are trying to explore as well?
Yeah, so I know the city has worked towards a Bloomberg grant to use AI to start tracking some of our most at-risk buildings within our city and being able to use AI to identify those. Because we do know that if we talk away from wildfires about the spread and risk of fires, those are a lot of different things can cause a fire to spread quickly. And so, yes, we're looking at moving towards AI.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Chief. Again, really encourage we explore those new technology and council would happy to support. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions about this reserve apparatus. So is staffing is the issue right now? Assuming we have enough all the vehicles there, do we have enough staff to cover this reserved vehicles?
I don't think you're ever going to meet a fire chief saying, don't give me staffing. So, but at this point in time, this council supported our last growth plan, and we are undergoing another dark horse review right now that we will be bringing forward to council towards the end of this year. That'll give some options for future growth and staffing. Currently, like I said, we have 152 firefighters on duty at any one time. If we needed to step up those other 3, we would probably use them for callback crews.
Okay, thank you. Well, my last question is the fires at 41st Avenue. That's level 4 fires. How often this level 4 fires happened?
The Winters Hotel fire was a level 4 or a 4th alarm. This one was a 4th alarm. We have changed our responses in the last couple of years, so immediately we are sending a lot more resources at a 1st alarm for some of our more high-risk buildings. So we'll send upwards, I believe, of 25 firefighters instead of 14 or 16. So it takes a bit longer to get to that level, but I think you'll see our annual report be released here in the coming weeks, and we'll talk about those number of fires.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Klassen.
Thanks very much, Chief, and thank you for the presentation and obviously the work your team does on a daily basis. I want to talk a little bit about the emergency response writ large in terms of community. Slide 15 talks about public education. I just reminded that the fact that our city was born of a fire in 1886. And in 2023, I actually had a front row seat at the West Kelowna wildfire. I was actually downtown Kelowna, watched the entire evening as that fire raced down the hill and burned over 200 buildings. There was at one point some anxiety that both Bill Bennett Bridge and Highway 97 were going to be closed, leaving the third largest city in the province with no capacity to evacuate for a fire there. It was actually incredibly terrifying. And then in 2024, I was notified by my sister when ash started to fall into her house with the 3400 block building on fire on West 41st, and knowing that there was ash that dropped into Pacific Spirit Park that night. I'm just trying to imagine potentially the worst case scenario. The firefighter response is going to be vital to that, but how the public reacts is also going to be a really key part of that. How we actually prepare them for, and again, eyes on the ground and all that kind of thing is really important. But what are the scenarios that we are sort of potentially planning for a potential calamitous a fire that could affect large parts of the city?
Yeah, you're right. Really good points, and it brings chills to me to hear you talking about that. You know, it's our worst nightmare when something like this happens. But be sure that you've got a great team and a great fire department here that's quick to action and quick to response. Different things that we're doing is every individual needs to be responsible. Just like a major disaster, people have to be able to self-sustain for 72 hours. People need to be able to go out. If they see ash falling on their house, they need to be able to have their garden hoses out, ready to put out hot spots. They need to be watching in a major event to be able to stop it from spreading so quickly. In a case like Los Angeles, where it started spreading so quickly, nothing that they would have done would have made a difference once it started going. And so that's why it's so important to be on top of it as soon as possible. Does anybody on my team want to have an answer to some of the different things that we're working towards? It's going to be more public education, building up our resources, and hitting it with everything we have as soon as we can.
You mentioned just garden hoses and things like that, the things that we can do on a small scale. As it happens, my sister's patio umbrella had a piece of ash burn right through and leave a little 1-inch hole. But you can imagine that could have been much worse. But just having those tools and actually reminding people to have those kind of emergency kits in places, I think would probably go a long way. But I know that that's a larger education campaign that I'm sure council will be prepared to support.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we'll be really rolling out our Fire Smart program, which really talks about, you know, things that spread fire, that catch fire, you know, trees right against your houses should be pruned up nice and high, so if something's on the ground, it won't spread from that to your house or to your roof as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Sim.
Actually, a lot of my questions were already answered, so I'll just make some comments, and there will be a question in here. My comments was I was given the opportunity to sort of be, well, we had a conversation when this thing was, you know, going, and then I was on 41st with the crew, and by the way, big shout out to Rob there. He was working it, he was sweating, like, Sim, get out of the way, we have work to do. It was absolute. I was blown away with the East 10th fire going on as well. Only having 2 rigs covering the rest of the city, and want to acknowledge Burnaby and Richmond for stepping up and supporting. And I think the city needs to know that this could have been like LA. This could have been like Jasper. This could have been like Lahaina. And just hats off with incredible gratitude to all of the team members at Vancouver and Fire and Rescue, and Burnaby, Richmond, VPD as well, who all played big roles there. You answered the question, the Dark Horse report's coming out later on this year. When I sort of look at, you know, I think I can speak for the entire council and future councils. I think there's like a huge asymmetric risk going on here in terms of, you know, even small investments or avoiding investments, nickeling and diming. if we don't have those resources there, could have a very, terrible outcome. I couldn't imagine if we were short like 2 more rigs, what could have happened in the city. So my question to you is, this report, is it going to be super bold, and is it going to give us all the different options so, we can make the proper investments, and then some? Because I would hate to think what would happen if we were just trying to save a couple of bucks and half the city lights up. I think I don't want this council to be making a decision trying to save a couple of pennies a day in property taxes and put our city at risk. Are you guys going to be bold when you come out with this report?
Yes, we will be bold, but we'll also be looking at ways of doing things better, right? So it's not always about adding resources. Of course, there's probably going to be recommendations on fire hall locations and resources, but we're also going to be looking at how can we do things more efficiently, and not always doing the way we always do things, right? That's kind of my job as the fire chief, is to make sure we're doing things as efficiently as possible. And just because we've always done it one way doesn't mean that's the way of doing it. Whether it's some of our prevention initiatives, it's not just throwing staff at it, actually isn't always the best solution. It's sometimes using AI and using technology to sometimes reduce some of those other opportunities as well. But to answer your questions, yes.
And just a follow-up question, and I don't know how much detail you get into it, but I know a lot of people that, and this isn't a knock, people without necessarily financial backgrounds, when they look at investments in capital, they may go, well, a new rig costs $3 million. And they don't understand that actually the rig that costs $3 million actually may save us a ton when it comes to, well, the ergonomics of the electric trucks are way better, so our members don't get hurt. They're also more effective. So will the Dark Horse report actually show why these, whatever you're looking at, are prudent investments from a financial point of view as well, that would help educate the public?
I think that's a good point. I'm not quite sure if it's there yet. I think we're pretty close to showing that the electric engines are almost a net neutral to the existing traditional diesel engines as well, when over the long term. But that's a very good point that we'll take back.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks. I just had one quick follow-up question. This is the first wildfire risk report I think I can recall receiving at council. Is this the intention to provide ongoing regular updates for the report, or is it a point in time, or what's that?
I think that climate change is here. I think that we're seeing more and more fires within our city, and many are starting outdoor fires. So I would expect that it is something that we can continually present as requested or needed by council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks so much, Chief Fry, for the presentation and all the responses. I had a few questions as well. I saw a mention of the risks related to tent encampment fires in Stanley Park. Just wondering what sort of trends you're seeing with fires in Stanley Park, say perhaps in last summer. Is there an increase? Is it stable? Just some context there would be great.
I think it's pretty stable in Stanley Park. I think a lot of there's a risk because there are individuals living within Stanley Park. It might not be the permanent residents living within Stanley Park. It might be more the transitory ones that are in there as well. There's people that like to light fires, arsonists at point in time that we see. We did not see an increase in fires in Stanley Park in the last year. Not quite the same risk as we see with regular encampments.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that in mind, I'm thinking about, west of Denman, the West End, adjacent to Stanley Park. What would be some advice for residents in those areas to help, mitigate or report any fire issues in the park or adjacent to it?
Yeah, I think if they're noticing any burning, any fires, 911, report it. Don't wait and think somebody else is reporting it. You see smoke coming up from any of our parks, please report it as soon as possible. We also have great relationships with the airlines, the Harbor Air and the float planes, and the the helicopters that fly over Stanley Park several times a day and will call in if they see fires and stuff as well. But really for individuals, it's everybody's responsibility to report when they see an incident, and the sooner we know about it, the sooner we can action it.
Okay, that's great to hear about those relationships with the float plane providers. And then on the construction site fire piece, obviously West 41st you mentioned. I'm very grateful that that wasn't worse. You talked about the construction safety plan that was in place and how that mitigated some of the damage to adjacent properties, et cetera. What are you seeing in terms of compliance with those plans? Is that something that VFRS monitors or is responsible for?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Mears to come up and talk to that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We're seeing great compliance with our construction fire safety plan program. So when the building code changed a few years ago to allow the 6-story wood frame buildings, our fire protection engineer, Rick Chung, he put in a regime for all of the developers to submit a construction fire safety plan that had to be reviewed by our office. So one of our captains in fire prevention reviews the construction fire safety plans, make sure that they're adhering to all of the safety concerns within that particular site, some of which is adjacent building protection, which we had in place at the 3477 West 41st, which actually saves some of the adjacent homes from actually catching fire just from the radiant heat there. They also have to have a, if you want to go into specifics, they have to have a standpipe that's all ready for us to use. Unfortunately, that fire was so far advanced when our crews got on scene, they couldn't use that actual standpipe. But to answer your question, we're seeing great compliance with them, and we actually don't allow them to proceed. Like, we can actually put a stop work order on the project, and we've done that many times in the past. If our inspectors go and they see that they're not adhering to the construction fire safety plan, we can shut the job down.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Okay, that was it for my questions, but I did send in some direction that I'd like to move in relation to this presentation. So all the councillors should have that, and if we could get that up on the screen, I can speak to it. Oh, I'll need to see the chair too. Thanks for the reminder. I believe it's Vice Chair, Councillor Klassen. Thank you. So over to you, Councillor Klassen, and I'll introduce it. Okay, so I'd like to thank Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services for being here today, for all of your responses to our questions, and of course all the hard work you're doing, particularly around planning and preparation for the risk of a urban interface fire or a wildland urban fire. But obviously, I mean, we've seen many fires of this sort across the world. You mentioned several: LA, Hawaii, and it is a risk, despite all of our great preparation and I know your vigilance. I would like to see a report back to council on preparations for such an event, to ensure that we're as prepared as we can be. And I think it would be worthwhile, with all the work you're doing, to pull that all together into one report. So that is the rationale behind my amendment, and I would love support from council, which I'm sure we will find today.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Kirby-Yung. Thanks very much, Chair Meisner. Is there any discussion around this from committee members? Okay, seeing none, then we will take the motion to a vote.
Unanimous.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thanks very much. I will cede the chair back to Chair Meisner.
Okay, thanks very much, Vice Chair, and thank you everyone from Vancouver Fire Rescue for being here today, for all of your diligence and your hard work and your care, and for the safety of Vancouverites. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you. So that completes presentation 1. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess and be back at 10:49 p.m. or a.m. completed presentation 1, and we will now continue with our first report that was held, a change order to consulting services agreement for the Healthy Waters Plan. Before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Okay, I'm not seeing any conflicts. This item does not have a staff presentation, so Councillor Kirby-Young, you held this item. You have 5 minutes to ask questions to team members.
Great. Thanks, Chair. And I think my question in reading through the report, because I'm obviously very supportive of the work and the need for sort of the sewer investment separation, but I'm trying to just get my head around the process a little bit of how we start with a contract value of 2.7 million, and then we end up where it's about almost threefold by the end of it. And I know there's phasing work, so I think my question is really trying to better understand, like, do we not scope out phase 2 and 3 much at all? Does that come later? Like, I'm just not quite clear on that process. Is my first question.
Okay, my name is Chris Baber. I'm the Associate Director leading the Healthy Waters Plan. So when we initially, when we started the project, we came to you with a request to approve a contract in about $2.7 million. And at that time, we had phase 1 scoped out very much in detail, and that was a current state assessment and development of a strategic framework. At that stage, we didn't have sufficient knowledge of what our needs would be from our consultants in phase 2 and phase 3. So we had phase 2 and phase 3 essentially as placeholders within that agreement, knowing that we would need to make changes. So while we had uncertainty around the scope for phases 2 and for phases 3, which this change order applies to, we did have the amounts budgeted. So we had a good understanding of how much it would cost, but we didn't know the details around.
Okay, so maybe a follow-up question just for time. So then when we did the original RFP and we're looking at its competitive bidding process, was it sort of, are all the folks that are bidding on this putting a placeholder amount similarly around the other phases? AKA, how do we know we're getting value as we now have a provider and then we have this one provider that essentially is providing pricing on phase 2 and 3 solely, right?
Yeah, so all of the bids that we received in that competitive process included amounts, like placeholder amounts for phases 2 and 3, which we had very high level general scoping for, like we didn't have details.
So they all put in a placeholder amount?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess my other question is kind of like in layman's terms, and this might be more of a question that's not procurement, more for our subject matter expert looking at lawn. And that's like, what are they actually doing? I see reference to things like GIS and review and that, but like in layman's terms, what are we spending $6.7 million on? What are they doing?
So there are 2 buckets of work. One bucket of work is around developing analytical tools, modeling tools for how the system is going to function under various scenarios, as well as financial modeling tools. The other bucket of work is around engagement and needing to engage with subject matter experts at the City and Metro Vancouver, as well as our First Nations partners and stakeholders.
I'm just wondering if our GM wants to add to that. So are these like, is this like analytical tools? Is this proprietary software applications? Is this can you just give it to us in straightforward English?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Lon Leclerc, General Manager of Engineering Services. So in layman's terms, what we're really trying to do, and the big change, is to look at the entire system and look at try to find ways to deliver healthy water outcomes quicker as the foundation, recognizing that sewer separation has always been a plan to improve the water quality in our receiving bodies, sending all the sanitary to the land or to the sewage treatment plant, and allowing stormwater to flow to the ocean. We acknowledge that actually that's not the full solution to making sure that our beaches are swimmable and the receiving water bodies can be healthy. And so this plan looks to the full spectrum of methods that we can use, including green infrastructure, in terms of different types of retention and release in terms of rapid treatment at outfalls. So it's actually a much broader approach. And it looks to, rather than looking to say 2050 where the full system is separated and have healthy water outcomes, to actually start to see that in very early years.
So in terms of analytics tools, does that include software or not? And will we end up with different kind of analytics? So for example, instead of just talking about CSOs, we're talking about how much stormwater is absorbed or treated, absorbed through green infrastructure, not diverted. Like, is that what our future looks like?
So in terms of the analytical tools, there are no proprietary software tools that are part of that. We're talking about using existing platforms, but needing to configure those existing platforms, whether it's in a spreadsheet or within.
Sorry, we are at time. Apologies. Overtime, actually. So we'll move on. Actually, there's no one else on the queue for questions. There's no speakers for this item. Would someone like to move a motion? Okay, moved by Councillor Joe and seconded by Councillor Kirby-Yung. Committee members, any discussion? I see Councillor Kirby-Yung. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no surprise. I've long been an advocate for advancing our sewer separation work, and we have been increasing the pace of that. We do have some regulatory obligations by 2050, and I know that we've been looking at a combination of the traditional kind of pipe gray infrastructure as well as green. And council given direction, moved a motion on that to advance that work. So I am really supportive. I do think there's more of a story to tell here. Like, I don't think, in the 5 minutes we had, there's some technical question around the procurement piece, but I don't think that I got quite the response I was hoping for in terms of trying to describe to the public what that looks like, right? For example, so how do we measure success? Is it less CSOs? Is it the water capture? Like what? And I'm sure some of that will be forthcoming. But if you're getting sort of analytics and strategies and tools, $6.7 million still seems like a lot of money to me over sort of 3 years roughly for advice, and that expert advice, I would say. But that's what I'm trying to get a bit of a better sense of what is the value that we're getting, and is it going to significantly change our paradigm? Is that an investment that's going to pay off in terms of the reduced infrastructure costs? Because traditional infrastructure is really expensive to deliver. So I'm looking to sort of in future opportunities in these conversations and reports to council to get a bit more understanding about that potential. We're investing this, but this is how it's going to help us either in reducing our capital spend and being more efficient in our outcomes, those kinds of things. So that would be really helpful perspective for me to have. And those are sort of my comments around this one. And I'm sure it's going to be a big part of the discussion for our capital plan as well. So looking forward to more conversations on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Kirby-Yung. Seeing no one else on the queue, I'll now call the vote. Clerk, if you could please take us to the voting screen, and committee members, if you could please register your vote on the voting panel. Okay, and that passes unanimously. And that completes report 1. Thank you. Okay, we did adopt reports 2 and 3 on consent. So our next item of business is council member motions. Motion 1, supporting local businesses, a proactive approach to retail security, and is to be moved and introduced by Councillor Montague. Before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Okay, not seeing any conflicts. So Councillor Montague, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion, and we'll just put you in the queue. So please go ahead.
Great, thanks, Chair. Hopefully this is fairly straightforward. I attended a retail crime forum last month, and some of the statistics and experiences that were relayed by businesses and their staff were unsettling, I think is the best way to put it. A large number of businesses here in Vancouver don't expect to last the next 4 years. A lot of that is due to loss from crime. Retail theft in Vancouver, it continues to increase. It's one of the crimes that is on the rise here, and it's being felt by businesses and communities. And I actually hate using the word theft or shoplifting because it implies sort of a secretly concealed item and someone quietly walking out of a store with it without paying. But what we're actually seeing is a huge impact on workers and businesses who are being threatened and attacked. We have stores in Vancouver that are actually providing, excuse me, training to their employees on how to use body cameras. We've gotten to a point where retail theft has escalated to that level. The VPD have been running a series of enforcement efforts under Project Barcode. They've seen some success in that. But what's the next step? And I think that's a task force to, a collaborative initiative with representatives from the Vancouver Police, the BIAs, retail merchants, legal experts, social service providers, and hopefully to, assess the root causes of retail theft, including organized crime and social factors, enforcement gaps, policy shortcomings, studies what's working in other cities, what isn't working, and then deliver a final report based on the evidence that they found and some both short and long-term solutions. So we saw great recommendations from the Mayor's Budget Task Force, and I would hope that we'll see similar success with the Retail Task Force. So the motion I'm moving is the amended motion that I circulated first thing this morning. 2 minutes.
Right on time. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Councillor Kirby-Yung. We are moving the amended motion. Do we have that? We'll have that in our email as well. It's up on the
I
screen.
have a point of procedure,
Sure,
if I might, Chair.
Go ahead.
I know Councillor Montague referenced he's moving the amended motion, but in terms of public notification, there's a different version that's on the agenda. So I'm just looking for clarification if we can move an amended motion or if it has to come as an amendment.
That would be good to know from the clerks. Thanks, Councillor Kirby-Yung.
A whole new motion can be put on the floor. A member of council can put a motion on the floor. Doesn't have to be the one that was posted.
Okay, thank you, because we were given different counsel last term and told we could not do that. So that's why I'm asking the question for clarification, but the clerks are competent on that. I recall several instances where we were told we couldn't do it.
It may have been for reports, but for...
No, it was for motions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Appreciate that clarification. Okay, so council, any discussion on the motion, the amended motion on the floor? Hey, Councillor Klassen, please go ahead.
Just very, very brief, just that I'm very grateful to Councillor Montague for bringing this. We've heard repeatedly from the BIA partnership and the stress that this is putting upon retail business operators, and I just feel like the timing on this is well considered, and we really do need to try and do everything we can and put every idea on the table to try and address what we're seeing in terms of retail crime right now in our city. And I just, again, thanks very much for bringing this motion forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Klassen, and I'd like to see the chair to you as vice chair, so I can make some comments. Thank you, Councillor Montague, for bringing this important motion forward. It has my full support. I think all of us here in the council chamber and many Vancouverites are aware of how much retail theft and shoplifting is impacting not just our retailers, but also their staff, putting their personal safety at risk, as well as putting the livelihood of many small business owners at risk who feel that they may not be able to continue operating. So this is a really great idea to bring all the stakeholders together, study best practices from other jurisdictions, and report out on that. And I know we'll have some good outcomes from that. Our hardworking police, the BIAs, and businesses are working to combat this issue. There's many successful initiatives, including Project Barcode to combat shoplifting, but more can be done. And I look forward to the work that comes out of this initiative. So really glad to see this important motion here on the floor today to not just protect retail workers and small businesses, but also preserve the small businesses that make our city amazing and our neighborhoods vibrant. So thank you. I'll take the chair back, and Councillor Kirby-Yung, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's a really important issue, and I think that there's a lot of conversation, and I think it's important to level set a little bit around that, because people say, well, it's just property, right? And but it's not a victimless crime, and what we're hearing increasingly, and I think has been noted by the move of the motion, is that there are very real frontline staff that often are experiencing situations where it's not just goods that are walking out, but there are increasing incidences of violence, and that is incredibly traumatizing if you are a retail person. And you are confronted with a knife simply over property. And then that business owner has a difficulty in retaining the staff are traumatized, and so on. So I appreciate that there's a recognition around the root causes of crime. It's not just the financial and the economics. It would be increasingly devastating if we continue to lose businesses who are already struggling, and we're in incredibly uncertain economic times and challenges. But we also, I think, are at risk of one of these situations going very wrong. And somebody potentially getting hurt. So there are folks that are pressed into, and we've seen it in the downtown east side, to do sort of subsistence stealing, if you can call that. And I appreciate that this reference is kind of getting to the root causes where folks are pressed into these behaviors. But the people on the other end of the kind of the behavior of going in and stealing are also being victimized. So nobody's winning here, except for where we saw a number of the stolen goods popping up, for example, in the downtown east side markets and others where you see literally, in cases like London Drugs, packages of, brand new packaging, and you could, with the identity, and you can tell what store it came from, that's suddenly appearing. So it's a pretty significant issue. It's expanded into other areas of the city. And I think that, people need to feel that they can work in an honest facing job and not be subject to facing a threat of violence, which is, again, really scary. So it has a human cost, I think, as well as the economic one. And I think it's really important to know that. So I appreciate the motion, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll just close. I appreciate all the support, and I received some letters of support as well, including from Downtown Van, who are enthusiastic about what this task force can bring and what recommendations it can bring. So I'm looking forward to the recommendations as well. And I think Councillor Kirby-Young, reiterated what I tried to very quickly state in my first 2 minutes, and that's this isn't just about property. This is about individuals who are either own businesses or working in retail. Many of them are young people. Many of them are women working in retail who are feeling threatened and have been attacked and are not feeling safe at their jobs. So hopefully we can come up with some solutions, to supplement the enforcement that's happening. And I really appreciate the support. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Montague. So I'm now going to call the vote. Clerk, if you could please.
Chair, if we might, could I just ask for a brief recess?
Sure.
Just to address one procedural matter.
Okay, 5 minutes.
It shouldn't take us long. Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take a 5 to 10. What do you prefer? 10-minute recess. And we'll be back at 11:18 a.m. Thank you. had a bit of confusion there around the motion and then the new motion. So because that motion that we were just discussing before recess hasn't yet been voted on or passed, we're going to nullify that. We're going to have Councillor Montague introduce the original motion, and then we'll get a seconder, and then we'll go to debate, and I imagine Councillor Montague will put forward an amendment, and that's how we'll move forward. So Councillor Montague, I'm going to put you on the queue, and please go ahead and introduce. I don't know if you want to reintroduce your motion, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed, so I will just move my original motion as that was as unamended. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
And we'll just get that up on the screen. And we'll need a seconder as well. Okay, Councillor Joe, I saw first. And I'll just wait till it's up on the screen. There we go. Okay, so committee members, any discussion? Councillor Montague, I see you on the queue.
No holdover.
Okay. Thought you may want to move an amendment, perhaps.
Oh, sorry. Do we not have to vote on the? No, sorry. Right, right. So I would like to make an amendment that I did circulate. So if it can go to an amendment.
So yeah, we'll take you to the amendment queue. Let me just put you back on the queue. So please continue.
Great. So this I can explain. Basically, it's just some wordsmithing based on some feedback we got from staff. So it doesn't really change the motion in any significant way other than just some wording that makes it easier for staff to understand and work with.
Great. So seconded by Councillor Kirby-Yung. Great. Okay. Not seeing anyone else on the queue to speak to the amendments. So clerks, if you could please take us to the voting panel to vote on the amendment. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. So we will now go back to the main motion. And Councillor Montague, any closing comments?
No, I'm good, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, not seeing anyone else on the queue, so now vote on the motion as amended. Clerks, if you please take us to the voting screen. Council, if you could please register your votes. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. That completes that motion. Motion 1. Okay, so the standing committee portion of this meeting is now complete. We will now convene in council with Mayor Sim as chair to deal with the recommendations and actions from today's committee meeting.
Great, thank you very much. We will now convene in council to deal with the recommendations and actions from today's Standing Committee on Policy and Strategic Priorities meeting and urgent business. Clerk, can we please have a roll call?
Councillor Dominato is on a leave of absence for civic business. Councillor Bly is on a leave of absence for civic business all day. Councillor Fry is on a leave of absence for civic business all day. Councillor Montague?
Present.
Councillor Klassen?
Present.
Councillor Meisner?
Present.
Councillor Joe? You have quorum, Mayor Sim.
Great, thank you very much. We need a motion to adopt the Standing Committee's recommendations for reports 1 through 3 and members' motion 1. Great. Councillor Montague, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Joe. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. Urgent business. Council, are there any items of urgent business? For instance, are there any leave of absent requests needed prior to the next meeting cycle on April the 15th? Reminder that these requests should be submitted in writing to the clerks through the amendment distribution list. And let me just see here. I do not see anyone putting up their hand. That being said, Council, can we have a motion to adjourn? Great. Councillor Klassen, seconded by Councillor Montague. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. Carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.